My proudest moment as a footballer was undoubtedly the first time I walked onto the pitch at Wembley with my England shirt on. It was the culmination of everything I wanted to be when I was a little boy. Wanted to play for England, wanted to play at Wembley, and that moment when I stepped on that pitch to get my first cap was just an amazing memory. I'm Matt Tissier and I am a pundit on Soccer Saturday on Sky Sports. Mental well-being in football is a big issue right now. I think it's an important issue. I think it's something that needs to be addressed a little bit more than we actually do. I think it's starting to get out there a little bit, but I think there's still a lot more that we can do, a lot more the PFA can do in terms of the amount of people that they actually have dealing with the player welfare in that organisation. The football industry is a pretty unique one. I think it's very, very different from normal day-to-day business. I think you've got to be able to be very adaptable, and you have to understand that if you're working, certainly inside a football club, the effect that results can have on morale, and not necessarily, it's not just about what you're doing in your team. You might be having a great time, but with football clubs, a lot of the atmosphere that goes on at football clubs is basically dependent on how the team have got on a Saturday afternoon, and that's a tough thing to deal with. My opinion of VAR is that it's early days. I think it's a work in progress, and I think it will get better. I think we have to stick with it, and I think we have to let it evolve naturally, as I'm sure it will, as it has in other sports. But I think eventually, I think VAR will be a positive of the game. At the moment, it's probably viewed as a negative, but I think with a few tweaks, it can be a positive. Wow, I think the biggest change between traditional and social media is just the fact that you can actually voice your opinion to the individual. You know, in the past, you used to be able to, perhaps say things in a pub and in a group of mates, and nobody would really get to hear the criticism, whereas now you can go straight on social media, the guys have got accounts, and you can direct your criticism at them. And I think that's sometimes tough to deal with. You have to be incredibly mentally resilient if you're a player. I must admit, in this day and age, if I was a footballer now, I probably wouldn't have any social media accounts. I think it's a distraction that they really don't need. My proudest moment as a footballer was undoubtedly the first time I walked onto the pitch at Wembley with my England shirt on. It was the culmination of everything I wanted to be when I was a little boy. Wanted to play for England, wanted to play at Wembley, and that moment when I stepped on that pitch to get my first cap was just an amazing memory. I don't have any regrets about my playing career. I made decisions that I made to stay at Southampton when I had chances to go to other football clubs, but to this day, and with my hand on my heart, I'm very proud of what I did at Southampton. We spent the entire time that I was at the football club in the top flight of English football, which for one of the smallest teams in the division at the time was quite an achievement. And I left the fans there with some fantastic memories, and I'm just really proud to have represented that football club for so long. I think for me the special thing about Southampton Football Club was the relationship I had with the fans from a really early age. From the age of 17 when I first broke into the first team, they were always incredibly supportive of me. Whenever I was a substitute, I can remember them singing my name, putting pressure on the manager to get me on the pitch, and it was just lovely to hear and to have that level of support. I was just a little kid from Guernsey. I didn't know I was even going to be a footballer. I had these dreams, and the minute that I got onto the pitch at the Dell, they were just so incredibly supportive of me. So that was one of the reasons why I love the area. It's not too far from my home back in Guernsey where I grew up. So there was a lot of different reasons for me to stay at Southampton, and as I said, not a single regret. I think the favourite player I played with, and it was only briefly, but Paul Gascoigne, I think in my generation was one of the best footballers that I saw. I think he was just an amazingly gifted technician. I grew up as a kid as a Spurs fan and idolising Glenn Hoddle and the way that he played football, and Gazza was just another one of those players that could just light up a stadium with something, and that's kind of how I wanted to be remembered, really. So that's why I tried to play the way I did. My favourite goal of my whole career was a goal I scored against Blackburn at Ewood Park. It was about 35 yards, and I've hit a lovely right-footed shot with a bit of dip into the top corner. Won BBC's goal of the season that year, so I was really proud of that one. Sadly, we lost that game 3-2, which was a bit of a blow. But from a technical point of view, that was kind of everything I was trying to do with that shot happened just perfectly.